Hey, everybody, and welcome to episode 11 of And Action. I'm Tommy DiNucci. I'm here with Mikey Messier, and we have a very fun topic for you because it ain't all roses and ice cream when you're making movies. There's going to be a lot of heartache. There's going to a lot of disappointments going to come face your way. And today, we're actually kind of like this is a therapeutic thing. We're going to be talking about our worst days on set ever. Mikey's got some stories prepared. I have really just like one specific worst day ever that, to this day, this happened a long time ago. I still think about it. It still messes with my mind a little bit. So today we're going to try to exercise those demons. We're going to try and talk it out into the universe. And we're going to talk about what we can all learn from these really fucked up situations that can occasionally hit you right in the mouth, Mike. How
Yeah.
are you? How was your 4th of July weekend? What the hell's going on?
Hey, Tommy, it's great to be here with you, buddy. And I know you've had a couple of busy weeks. I've been working a lot on my writing, these, 6 different titles I have on Amazon. I've been, the interesting thing, kind of like a film, you think you're done, but then you have to go to the editing room. And with the writing of the books, you write the books and then even getting them printed up and realizing, oh my God, there's a little typo or there's a semicolon instead of a colon. And I get a little worked up about that stuff. So,
Oh, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. I feel like the same thing happens to me when I read a script. Like almost
yeah,
every time you crack open that thing, you're gonna find something wrong with it. It's a needle in a haystack of mistakes. So
right.
I feel your pain on that. Um, yeah, things have been a little nutty for me, Mike. These last couple weeks, anyone who's been following along, I've been on 2 different movie sets inside of about a 2 or 3 week stretch. Fortunately, both of the movies, for the most part, were on overnight schedules. But I'm not as an actor. You're not on set every single day. The crew, they get the benefit of like, for the most part, they can kind of acclimate their body to one sleep schedule and stay on it for the 3 or 4 weeks. For an actor, it's a little different because you might be working 2 days on, and then you might have 2 or 3 days off, and then you might come back for a couple days. So it's like, I got a little messed up where I was working overnights for a couple consistent days in a row, 2, 3 days in a row. And then I'd go back to like a normal sleep schedule for like a couple days, try my best to just like, I don't know, sleep at night like normal people do. But
Right.
then I'd have to go back to work the next day and stay up all night. Mike, you know about my superpower. I think everybody's got a little bit of a superpower, at least one. And my superpower, it's not cool, it's not flashy. You can't really create a Marvel Comics franchise based off of this superpower. But I'm lucky. I don't really need to sleep much. I don't require a ton of sleep, and I can probably function on. It's not healthy, but like 4 or 5 hours a night if I really have to. And then
Right.
if I really need to catch up, I'm only getting 6 hours. So it's not the end of the world, but there have been some zombie days over the last couple of days. 4th of July was yesterday, if you're listening to this today. And man, I was out of it all day. I was like practically like dozing off. You eat a little bit, you have a couple drinks, and you're
Sure.
like in zombie snooze land. So I'm looking forward to getting back on a normal schedule. It's great to see some of our consistent viewers are with us. Shout out to Stephen E. Shout out to Johnny. Shout out to everybody who is coming along on this And Action movie making journey with us. So Mike, today, it's kind of it's a tongue in cheek kind of day because it is a lot of this stuff.
Sure.
I mean, it's depressing stuff that we're going to be talking about.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's good to get this stuff out of your system.
Right.
I haven't really told many people about this story. Really only some close friends and a couple of people that I was probably like with at the time,
Yeah.
friendly with or whatever, know about it. Some of the people I worked with, but this is a Tommy DiNucci story that has kind of remained in shadows for many years.
Unearthed.
Yeah, because it's kind of like it's a bad memory, man. But we're gonna talk about it. So,
All right.
2009, we're going all the way back to. There's a movie called Tanner Hall that's being shot in Rhode Island,
Ah, yes,
and
I
it's a
remember
very
that one.
yeah, and it was a very classy film, Mike, because it was written and directed by a couple of really like up and coming filmmakers. We had Francesca Georgi Gregorina and Tatiana von Furstenberg. Apologize for butchering Francesca's name, but let me tell you a little something unique about these 2 women who wrote and directed this movie. Francesca is the stepdaughter of Ringo Starr. So your stepdad's a Beatle. All right, that's pretty classy company to be carrying.
Sure.
And Tatiana von Furstenberg, her mother is like a fashion maven, like an absolute, fashionista queen, whatever you want to call it. So these are like two very classy writer directors who are coming into Rhode Island. I believe the backstory goes they both went to Brown University together, or at least I know Francesca did. So this is kind of like a boarding school story that's reminiscent of their youth and coming up. And what a cast this thing had. I mean, we're talking like, I'll just run down the list,
Sure.
but you had Rooney Mara,
Oh,
you
yeah.
had
Girl with the dragon tattoo.
yeah, yep, you had Tom Everett Scott, you had Chris Kattan, who was really cool, and the big one, the big heavy hitter, the home run hitter batting cleanup, you had Brie Larson playing like the main character, and this is long before Miss Marvel. This is, Brie Larson is what's called an up and coming, an upstart. Someone who, it's kind of funny how Hollywood works, and I don't have a ton of experience with this, but I've seen it in action where Hollywood kind of knows for the most part, like, well, they could at least bet, like in Vegas odds, like who the big stars of the next 5-10 years are going to be.
Sure.
They know based on the pedigree, the agency that they came from, just their basic skill set. You check all the boxes, as they say. Brie Larson was one of those kind of people. They knew Brie Larson was going to be a star back then. Because I remember on the set of this movie back in 2009, hearing that, like,
Right.
oh no, this woman's going to be a star someday. Like she's got this, really great trajectory planned. So here comes time where, like a lot of smaller movies, this was still probably only, an under $5-10 million movie. This wasn't some massive film. So as you know, once you've got all these stars, well, your budget starts getting sapped up, and a lot of the remaining players in the movie are cast by locals.
Right.
So there I was, putting my name and my hat in the ring, as they say, and I auditioned through Annie Mulhall over at LDI Casting, and there's a bunch of young men in the movie to play
Sure.
opposite this star-studded young female cast. So I read for one of the parts of one of the boyfriends of one of the girls. I get a call back. Little do I know, I'm reading for the part of Brie Larson's boyfriend.
Oh, wow.
What do you know? So I get the call, I do the call back, and I'll never forget. It was like a Friday night, and I remember it being like a week later because I had auditioned the previous Friday, and I remember saying like, well, it's been a week. They're probably not going to call me. And Friday night, I get a call from Anne. You got the part. I'm jumping up and down. I booked it. I can't believe it. It's the first time that I truly, like, with no ties to the production, with no ties to anybody. And keep in mind, this is like before Incubus. This is before anything.
Yeah.
I booked this part. They
Right.
like me, and there was a kissing scene. I mean, it was a big deal. Like, this was a big part to be playing opposite this budding star.
Yeah.
And I think I want to say it was maybe 4 days work. It was like literally the stuff of dreams for a young actor. So I get my marching orders, which first is a wardrobe fitting, and I go in to do the wardrobe fitting. And, I remember Brie was actually there that day, and, I'm getting fitted, and I meet her, and I was cool. Like, they're treating me like a king. I've got a lot of really great wardrobe options. And that was the one thing that I noticed right off of the bat. Like, I had been a background actor before, and usually it's like, yeah, bring whatever you can. You throw it on quick. They look at you
Right.
with one eye, and they're like, yeah, you're good to go. Get in there.
Yeah.
I must have tried on 25 different outfits,
Mm.
like I brought some stuff. They had some stuff for me. They were designers that I had never even heard of. Like, I was getting like what we call like the first team's wardrobe. This is like really good shit. Like an actual legit designer is like measuring my body and like figuring out what will fit right. And I take some pictures. Brie comes in the room. She looks at me. Honestly, I forget the name of the character. I probably blocked it out. But let's say his name was Billy, whatever. They were like, she was like, "Oh, this is Billy." And I remember to this day, she like looked at me and smiled and was like, "Oh, he's cute."
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I've already like got an engraved Academy Award with my name on it. Like, this is great. I'm off to the races. This is everything This is everything that we dreamed of.
You're Johnny Depp and she's Winona Ryder, and you're off to the races.
I'm like, thank you for discovering me, everyone.
Right.
This really means a lot that you pulled me out of obscurity here in Cranston, Rhode Island, to be out the star. So it's all going fucking great, and we're gonna shoot the following week, right?
Yeah.
And I remember to this day, I'm driving to my job in Providence. At the time, I'm working with a filmmaker whose name will go unmentioned for now. But basically, I'm driving to work just to be an intern, and get a call. Hey, Tom, this is so and so. I'm the AD on Tanner Hall. Hey, how are you? Yeah, listen, I know we had you scheduled for Tuesday, and I'm getting nervous now. I'm like, oh, what's going on? Yeah, I know we had you scheduled for Tuesday, but there's been some things that fell through with the location. Everything's still on, same location we told you. Everything it's going to happen next Tuesday now.
Okay.
Okay. All right. No problem. Great. That's awesome. Everything's good. See you next week. So I go about my business. I do my thing. I learn my lines. I say to myself even, hey, maybe this is a good thing. I even have extra time to prep this role, and I'm going to be really great, right? Yeah. Take it like a gift. Well, unfortunately, in those 6 days between those calls, that call and the day that I have to go shoot, I'm only 22 years old now. So like a lot of young men and women, sometimes you get acne, right? These zits, they just pop out of nowhere, and that can happen. Okay, well, zit's not the end of the world. It is what it is. But this zit that I had formed like right here, and I'm pointing, if you're listening, I'm pointing to like right below my lip. And I tried to control it a little bit, but I didn't really know what I was doing. I'm still like a kid. I don't really know what the fuck is up. I don't really know how to like take care of my skin right. I don't know what's going on. Actors, if you're listening, this story is going to make you want to like YouTube 1,000 different fucking facial regimens and really start paying attention to your skincare. I wish I did. That's all I'm going to say. So I get this ungodly volcanic zit under my lip. And most zits, they get better after a couple days.
Right.
This motherfucker got worse. Like it's almost like it erupted below, and there was like a zit under a zit.
Ingrown zit. Yeah.
If you're squeamish, I apologize. This might not be the episode for you. Needless to say, Monday night, I don't know what to do. I've tried popping the thing, but you don't want to pop it because then I'm like, I'm going to have a big fucking scar on my face. What do? I go in, and my goal is, let me get in there and immediately try to see makeup. Like immediately try to see makeup right away. So I check in, and I try not to see anyone. And I haven't seen Brie yet. I haven't seen anybody. Look, I'm on a first name basis with her in my mind. Right. I haven't seen anyone. I haven't seen the director. Haven't seen the producers. I go in and I get makeup on this zit. And I remember even saying to the makeup artist, "Hey, listen, I got a really bad zit right here." And she looked at it and she was like, "Okay, I think we can cover that up. I think we can put something on it." All right. So she puts the makeup on, and I look at it, and I'm like, it's not bad. Like if you just look at it, it's not bad. The problem was, and this is, again, I hate to sound fucking gross, but like it was kind of zit. It almost had like topography to that shit. Like this motherfucker was popping out. Like it was like almost like a bump. Almost looked like I got fucking stung by a bee on the face. So the makeup was okay. We're hanging in there. We're doing the thing, but anyone who's been on a movie set before knows that like sometimes time goes by and you're on ice for a while. So I'm on ice. I'm sitting there. I'm waiting in this fucking holding room. And as the day goes by, like, the makeup starts to fade a little bit, because I got that makeup on early and then the makeup artist was gone. And maybe I could have been a little bit more mindful of like checking in, getting it reapplied. But then I remember everyone went to lunch. And then I remember like right before lunch, like I saw Brie for the first time. And I'll never forget this in my life. But my makeup had faded. And watch my eyes, everybody watching the video. She goes, "Hey, Tommy," looks at my eyes, and then immediately looks right down to this zit and like does this. And like I see this like little mini flicker of like, I don't know what. And she's like, "I'll see you in a little bit." And she like fucks off. She's gone, right?
Right.
She's out of there.
Yeah.
And I say to myself, I can't help but notice that I'm a Cancer, guys. Okay. So it's in my nature to see the pain and humanity in all people.
Yeah.
And I can see what's bothering you and what you're hiding before you even have to tell me. And I could tell right then by the way she looked at me that she quickly ran to a producer and said, "Hey," and listen, God damn it, I hate to sound, I'm not trying to sound like I'm negative about it. I would have done the same thing. Bree, you're not watching End Action, but if you happen to listen to this,
All right, hi, Bray.
I don't take any offense to you. I would have done the same thing, and I don't blame you. This thing was a monster on my face. It had its own zip code, so it's all good. But Brie must have probably went to a producer and just, for a standard health, man, she's got a kissing scene with me.
Right.
I don't blame her. She has to make out with my face, and this fucking thing is like right next to my lip.
Did she maybe think she thought it was a cold sore or something like that?
She might have thought it was a cold sore. Well, it's funny you mentioned that, Mike. God, how intuitive you are. Because the next thing I notice, now I don't even go to lunch. I really don't. Like, I can't eat right now. Like, I'm a little nervous. I'm
Sure.
afraid that, I'm afraid if I eat, I'll rub off the little bit of makeup that's hanging onto this fucking thing.
Yeah.
And maybe like a fucking arm will just come out and bite someone.
Right.
Like, get that layer off. So what ends up happening is I'm hanging around during lunch, and one of the producers comes up to me and says, "Hey, Tommy, can I talk to you for a second?" And guess what? She's with the fucking medic.
Oh,
which is
wow.
So I'm approached by a producer and a medic, set medic. And hey, Tommy, we just want to take a look at this. And she didn't know what to say. We just want to take a look at this thing here. And well, what is that? I go, and I say very defensively, I go, it's a zit. I'm 22 years old. It's a zit. I got a zit. Because I knew what they were getting at. I knew they were like, is that like, do you have herpes on your face? Like,
right.
What the fuck is that thing that you're going to go talk to I'm sorry. You're going to go make out with our star right now?
Our starlet, yeah.
Thing on your face, and there's still another week or two of production? Guys, again, we said worst days on set for a fucking reason.
Yeah.
It's like the worst day on set, and you're about to hear it all play out. So I say, no, it's just a zit. I'll never forget the medic kind of leans in and looks a little bit at it. How the fuck can you tell what that is? It's got a cake layer of makeup on it. So I say, like, I could go to makeup again, and then there it was, like, I got left. Okay, well, we'll be right back. And I got left on ice, and I'm on ice, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting. And now, like, guys, a movie set day is roughly 12 hours. I'm on hour like 7 now, and I still haven't reported the set. It's like 7 or 8. I'm like, we have a lot of work to do. Like I didn't really know much about production at the time, but I assumed, like, I have like pages of shit to shoot today. Like, why aren't I on set? Like, what's going on? And there was this carnival thing. It was like a big carnival set that they had rented carnival pieces. And it was going to be, again, every young actor's dream. You're in a carnival Ferris wheel makeout scene with the hot young starlet, like, that's about to become a movie star. And then it hit me. That same producer took me aside and said, "Tommy, can I talk to you?" And I said, "Yeah." And she just said, "Listen, I'm so sorry, but we're just really concerned about whatever this is, and it's just not going to work out. There is a role of a townie that you can play." He says like one line, but at least you'll have a part, and at least you'll get your day rate for speaking in the movie. And we're so sorry. We thought you were great. Everyone thinks you're great. It's nothing to do with your ability. We're just like really nervous about this thing on your face.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, to my credit, feisty young fucker, I didn't really take it lying down. I was kind of like, I remember I kicked at the umpire a little bit, like when the manager gets thrown out. I did say, like, how can you do this? Like, you signed me. I signed a piece of paper that says I'm playing this part. Like, I get legal in my mind. I'm like, I signed an agreement that said I'm playing this role. Like, I don't get how you can do that. Like, she's like, well, if it potentially puts one of our actors at a medical risk. I'm like, it's not a risk. It's not a medical risk. I have a zit on my face. I didn't swear or anything like that, but I tried my best to not take it laying down and maybe infect them with the mindset of, oh man, is this kid gonna sue us? Maybe we should give him the part. Fuck, I'm trying anything, man. This is my fucking
desperate.
So finally, she's like, I don't think we can do anything. We're gonna get back to you on this, and we're gonna try to, again, you're gonna play this townie part, and we appreciate your understanding. We'll come get you in a little bit. They leave me alone. I'm there by myself. I feel like crying. I don't know what to do with myself. And I will say this, I'll never forget Ann Mohall. I looked down at my phone and like she was like, calling me.
Yeah.
And she must have heard from the production and she basically said, hey, I'm really sorry, Tommy. This is just awful. And I try the same kicking and screaming act with her. I'm like, hey, like, how can they do this? I signed a contract. And she's like, the producers can reserve the right to cast and uncast whoever they want right up until the last minute. Like, I'm sure if you really read that contract, probably says that somewhere in there, especially for something like this. And it just sucks, Tommy. And this is just, I don't. I'd be paraphrasing right now. I don't remember exactly what she said, but whatever she said was comforting to me at the time enough to at least like not totally bawl my eyes out on set like a little bitch.
Right.
But I also remember, this is kind of funny. My friend Kevin, who I've worked with many times, we actually
Pop culture Kevin.
was together. PCK, Pop Culture Kevin, shout out to him. Worked at a Dunkin' Donuts, which was literally sharing a parking lot with the fucking holding building that we were holding in. So good old Kevin. He ended up kind of literally just driving over from one parking lot to another, and I sat in his car. And I probably did cry in his car. Like I might have. Like he's like one person that I was close enough where I was just probably like just, not like someone just died tears,
Sure.
but like, I can't believe this, man. Like how the fuck could this happen? Like this is a fucking nightmare that I'm stuck in kind of tears.
Yeah, frustration.
And Kevin just listened and he took it and he listened and there was no magic thing that he said to me, but just him being there in the car felt a lot. Meant a lot to me and took a little of the pressure away. To have someone to vent to, because I mean, anyone who's watching this who's been on a movie set, usually you don't have any friends on a set. Like you're kind of usually you're there on an island by yourself. So I was very much. This is before I didn't know any crew people in Rhode Island. I didn't know anyone. Like I was on an island to myself. So to have my buddy kind of drive over and sit with me for half an hour while I vented was nice. And then I get the call. I'm going down to set, and guess what? Steven just chimed in. He said, "Who stole your part?" And it's kind of funny, man, that this is one of those things where there were about a handful of, I don't know, probably like 6 or 8 guys that were going to be townie boys, that kind of show up and there's like a pickup truck and the townie boys are drinking beer out of the back of the truck and the girls come over or whatever. So one of the boys who was just like a townie boy, and I remember talking to him, he had never acted a day in his life. He had never been on a fucking movie set a day in his life. He did this because it was like, oh, my friends were doing it. It's background acting, and I lived, down in the town over, so I did it. And he was a tall, good-looking kid. It wasn't like he was a free. That's why they picked him. They were probably like, who knows? They were probably like, he's the tallest one and looks the most like an Abercrombie model. Let's go with him. So they picked this fucking kid, and I go from having 4 days work and several pages of dialogue to saying, I'm at a fucking keg of beer and I've got a solo cup. The girls approach and I go, "You girls want some beer?" That's it.
Yeah.
Big fucking moment. My big starring in, featuring, introducing Tom DiNucci is now reduced to, "You girls want some beer?" That's what I've become now. Now it's like fucking late.
Yeah.
And here's the funny part, guys. The kid who ended up getting my part, who's now in the Ferris wheel, kissing Brie Larson, doing my scene, because he doesn't have a giant fucking zit on his face.
Right.
The poor bastard did such a bad job, and God forgive him, he wasn't an actor to begin with. And aside from not being an actor, the kid was given like pages of dialogue, like 10 minutes before we have to go fucking shoot. And I get production now. They probably couldn't have shot another time because guess what? They rented all this fucking carnival equipment. You ain't renting that another day. Once you got a fucking Ferris wheel, once you get the little goddamn zippy car thing, you don't want to rent that twice. So they had to get it done. And this kid who was never a fucking actor is now in the Ferris wheel. And this is the truth, guys. You ready for this? Every one of that kid's lines of dialogue had to be replaced by another actor, a legitimate actor, via ADR later. So some actor had to watch this kid's mouth and literally like try to pipe in the right fucking sounding words because this kid was so goddamn stiff and hollow that it was fucking useless. Steven's asking, did they cut the scene? No, they didn't cut the scene.
They had
literally
to keep it. Yeah,
had
they
pipe
had
it in.
to.
But I will say this, Steven, they probably did cut some of the other scenes. I'll be honest with you. I never saw the whole movie from start to finish. That was way too much drinking poison for me. For me, it took me a while to even watch my "You girls want some beer" scene. Like it took me like probably 2-3 years to even watch that. It wasn't until the movie was on fucking TV. I remember the movie came on TV, finally was released, and I remember recording it and just being like, fuck. All right, let me try to exercise some of these negative thoughts. Let me just watch this scene. Like I'm not gonna die if I just watch this. And I remember watching it, seeing my stupid little bit, and then seeing how like awkward it was for this like piped in ADR with this kid. And then I shut it off. I wasn't about to give it another minute of my time. But guys, that's my worst day. And I'll remember I kind of came home again. It was one of those like split days. So I want to say the day probably started around like 2-3 p.m. and I probably didn't get out until 3 a.m. And then I drove home and I was up until, at the time I was working with the filmmaker and I used to get into work at like, I want to say like 8:30, 9 o'clock. And I remember that day, like that was a sleepless night. I literally was up got home at like 3:34. Didn't know what to do with myself. I think I like had a fucking protein shake and then said to myself like, well, the gym's open now. Like, I guess I could like work out for a couple hours and then just like get to work early. And that's what I did, like that's one of those things where like working out and going to the gym, like stuff like that's always kind of been like a friend when you don't have one. It's a good way to get your mind off of shit. So, I did the thing and I had a little workout and went into work. And luckily, I was working with film people. So I had a chance to kind of like at least relive the experience verbally and kind of like tell them what the fuck happened and get their insight and get a little bit of a pick me up. But hey, man, the moral of the story is this. If you do enough movies, shit's going to happen. And sometimes a great opportunity is going to be just taken away from you. And you have to learn that that's okay. And that's all part of the growth. And that's all part of the process. And it certainly makes you realize like what a great fucking opportunity. What a great opportunity it is every time you're on set. Every fucking time you have a chance to say even one fucking word. Or if you're a background actor, if you have a chance to just fucking stand in one goddamn spot, walk back and forth, but be part of the experience, you got to soak it up because you never know what's going to get taken away from you. A couple other things that I learned, I probably could have been maybe proactive, maybe early in the day if I went up to a producer and just said like, hey, look, yeah, I've been to maybe lied, maybe said like, I've been to my dermatologist this week. This is just like a really bad zit. I get acne sometime. Like I've got medicine on it. Can I make sure we get some extra attention? Like maybe I should have, rather than trying to hide it, maybe I should have brought it to their attention to let them know that like, hey, because their big concern, let's face it, their big concern is that I had something that was going to rub off onto their star actor and they were for the rest of the production. So maybe I should have been more like, hey guys, but how funny is it too? I mean, and I've thought about this for years, like had that fucking shoot not been pushed 1 week and had I just shot it the week that they were supposed to shoot it, none of this would have happened. I would have got my zit the week later, all would have been well. But that's not the way life works, like unfortunately as a screenwriter, sometimes I feel like, and tell me if you do this too, Mike, or any other writers out there watching this. Sometimes as a writer, I try to write my own life, whether I know I'm doing it or not. But like as writers, we feel as though everything needs to make sense.
Sure.
Everything needs to play out in a domino kind of 3-act structure where
have a payoff.
There's a payoff, there's a setup, there's a payoff. Things happen. Yeah, things will happen by surprise, but even by the end, they're probably going to make some fucking sense.
Right.
And in life, that shit doesn't exist. And there's going to be that weird third act foil that comes in and just knocks all your fucking dominoes over all at once without the whole fun little spinning and the fucking guy jumping off the diving board and the little figure eights and shit. Yeah. It's just going to fucking fall down at once. and you need to understand that like that's part of life too, and it's going to be okay, and there's going to be another opportunity down the road. So and you know what, I did make up for it, and I had plenty of other opportunities down the road, and I didn't quit acting. I didn't say, oh my god, what am I going to do? It's never going to happen again. I'm never going to audition again. You just got to get back on there and get back out there, I should say, and fucking try again a little bit harder next time. Mike, I've been chewing up a lot of time here with my tragic story, but I do feel better that I got it out. I have to say, God damn, that felt kind of good.
Well, it's
Out loud.
and you know, back in 2009, could you have predicted that 13 years later you'd be doing a podcast and this tragedy would give us 25 minutes of entertainment for everybody?
No, in fact, back then I probably thought I'd be in an insane asylum by now that night. But I appreciate everybody listening to my sad story. I hope you maybe pulled something from it, if anything, just some entertainment value.
I
And
pulled
Mike,
something from it. Go ahead.
well, go ahead, Mike. Let's hear your final thoughts on my terrible story, and then tell me about some of your bullshit.
Yeah,
that
see,
happened.
we started off with the Hogan versus Flair one first because I think you got the best story of the day, but I have a bunch of little mini stories.
It's gonna be hard to top that, brother.
That's a tough one to top.
In terms of sheer disappointment, that's gonna be tough to beat.
You win this round, but I'll still compete. I'll still cross the line.
Yeah.
My comments on your story, bro, is like, first of all, I love the part. I mean, in a tragic, comedic way, where and thanks to our friend Kim Kaling for being on the watching as well. But the part where Brie kind of looks at your face, and then she kind of like, I love because like I can get the visual image of this lady, you know, and she's had a great career. She has had some controversy herself. So she is an outspoken type. So I can totally get everything you're saying. And then I would say this, buddy, to give yourself a break. You know, you talked about the fact that maybe you could have approached one of the producers and so forth. But let's be honest, bro. At that stage of the game of your career, at that exact moment, it's kind of like in one of these supporting roles, like day player or 4 scene roles. The thing that I always feel like doing in that situation is don't cause any trouble. Like you don't want to cause any waves. You don't want to bring any undue attention to yourself. If you're the star,
know what the rules are, you know?
Right. I mean, it's you know, and Kim was there when I had that scene with Meryl Streep in Hope Springs. I kept my mouth shut. You know, like Elizabeth Shue was there. She was looking gorgeous and joking around with me. But I just didn't say much of anything. I tried to tell one joke, it flopped. And then I kept my mouth shut the rest of the day because sometimes as an extra or in your situation in like a featured co-star type of thing, you don't feel empowered to really express yourself fully as if you were a lead actor or a co-star type of thing. And I think that's understandable. You know what I mean? And but anyway, bro, it's a sad story. I totally get it. But I think one thing that I can see as a positive from that, as you were telling that story, I wonder, and I kind of think that this is true, maybe as a young actor going through that turmoil and feeling this part, you know, ripped from your clutches, maybe that made you more empathetic or sympathetic to actors in your career as a director.
Oh, absolutely. There's no question about it. You know, I do understand how sensitive we are as actors and how protective we are of these roles and just how much they mean and how much, again, not to get back to the writer in your head, but like, you know, you get this one part and you think it's going to be something that's going to lead to another part and another part and another part. So when you get that rug pulled, you're like, ooh, it almost feels like not only did I lose one part, but I lost like a couple other opportunities that I was going to get off of this one too.
Right.
So it can be tough, but enough of my bullshit, Mike.
Sure.
Tell me about some of your disasters.
Some of my bullshit.
I need to hear a little counter disaster to pick myself up right now.
I actually had a bunch. Like I said, I think I have more little stories, but but Mike, none with the emotional impact.
Notes. Those aren't notes. Those are mindless.
No, these are my notes.
Of a serial killer.
I want to put these on eBay after.
It's like a beautiful mind or some shit.
The bid starts at 99 cents for and I'll sign
all
it
right.
too.
Listen, I don't need to ridicule your notes. Go ahead. Please.
Well, I want to tell some stories. First of all, I used to go to this film school up in Maine Media Workshops. I had a pretty good run as an actor in residence for almost 10 years, or basically like 10 years. And I would go up there and I'd basically get fed and put into a room, and I would act for the student classes, for the film workshops. And I met a lot of good people up there, like Tom Kane, who was a producer on Kramer vs. Kramer, and all types of people. Alan Meyerson directed a lot of television shows. Barry Primus, who was in a Martin Scorsese movie called Boxcar Bertha, and blah, blah, blah. So I had a lot of great experiences, but there was a lot of bad experiences at that school too, at least a handful. And the first time I was brought on as an actor in residence, is going way back to 2002, I believe. My first assignment was to go down, and look, I'm in Maine. I don't know anybody up there. And they sent me on an assignment with a film class to go down by the docks, beautiful Camden, Maine. They drove me. I had to go in one of somebody's car, which was a mistake. And basically they had us, it was me and two female actresses. And one was probably 25 years old and one was probably 45 years old. And then I was the guy in the middle. And they wanted us to do these various little things, basically for lighting tests. There was not really acting involved. It was just like, we want to light these docks and everything. The issue, I was not the 25-year-old female, right? So this class full of, 20, 30 something guys and their male teacher have really no interest in Big Mike when they've got the pretty young actress to work with. So I basically just sat there waiting to be used and was not really used much at all. In fact, wasn't used at all. And even the older actress wasn't used. I mean, these guys really had their heart set.
It sounds like you just had some really fucked up douchebag filmmakers to work with.
Well, that's true.
That were kind of like, a little creepy and sound like they need to be thrown a beating, in my opinion.
Yeah, and the thing that made it all the worse was the mosquitoes were out that night. So, here's where I didn't come with my own car. I didn't have the resources or nowhere to go to get bug spray. The 45-year-old actress did have some bug spray. And I even asked her if I could use some. And I'll never forget, kind of like your Brie thing, I'll never forget this actress when I asked her if I could use some of her bug spray. She said, "Oh, Mike, I just have a little bit. I just have a little bit."
Wow. She was being stingy over the bug spray?
She would not share her bug spray with me because she wanted it all for herself.
Because you don't really need a lot of bug spray. No. And it goes a long way. A little bit,
So I spent the night getting eaten by Maine mosquitoes, and just kind of my stories are kind of like less gut-wrenching, but just like feelings of being disregarded.
You were on a set with a bunch of pervy filmmaker guys who were paying attention to an actress instead of you and this other woman and getting eaten alive by mosquitoes. That sounds like a really shitty night.
Yeah.
I hate that kind of behavior on set, and I hope it was a quick, not like an overnight. Hopefully you get the fuck out of there.
No, it was like a 3 or 4 hour thing, and then like I remember my only source of revenge was they would have an actor in residence, like assigned manager, like a person who worked at the school would assign us, and usually that person was in their early 20s anyway, and so that person had to ask me, like, "Hey, that class wants to use you tomorrow," and I said no. I'm like, I don't like those guys, and I didn't work with them, because I kind of learned at this film school, this Maine Media Workshops, even though it's a school environment and I'm not getting paid to act, but I'm not paying to take the classes. I'm kind of learning for free. It's a trade type of deal. I learned to really just look out for myself, and that a lot of people who make films are not as considerate as yourself, Tommy. A lot of people are real pricks, and they're just there to get their shots. They're just there to get their scenes, and they don't treat people like people. The next story I had from the same place, and I won't name names here to protect the guilty, but there was a film class. It was a cinematography class, lighting, and once again, probably a 55-year-old male teacher. His name was Mike, but not me, but another guy named Mike, and he was teaching this class with probably 25 students, and I would say maybe 18 were male and 7 female. And it was one of those deals where like the male testosterone was definitely the dominant trait of this class. And he decides to shoot the cinematography exercise about a 30-minute drive from the school. So once again, I have to hop into someone else's car. I don't know why I just didn't drive myself, but I hop in someone else's car and basically get to this thing. And they're shooting at this real dive crap, like 1980s pickup bar. I think it was called Time Out, somewhere in Rockland, Maine, like just a real dive, like something that, the Regal Beagle from Three's Company would destroy this place as far as the ambiance, right? So we go into this timeout bar, and there happens to be a stage in there with some, more or less poles, like stripper-esque poles.
Okay.
And our beloved film workshop teacher, who's getting paid to teach this class and who's the students are all paying to be there, he decides that he's going to come up with this scene which needs a woman, another actor in residence, very pretty woman, blonde. She was about 40, but she needs to be gyrating on the pole a bit. She needs to be dancing around the pole.
Mike, where are you finding all these fucking creeps that you are associating with?
I'm not choosing to associate. I'm getting thrown in the mix. And I'm just like, wait a minute. You're like a 55-year-old dude. I mean, the woman was attractive. She's a nice lady, but you're making her gyrate or kind of do like strip. She wasn't taking her clothes off, but she was doing like the seductive pole dancing. Yeah, and I'm like, this is a lighting. It was uncomfortable, and it was a lighting exercise. And I'm thinking, why would you choose of all the? There was no script. There was no story that he had on paper. He's making the story up as he goes along. And the story turned out to be in this final piece of crap work that this woman goes to the club with her date. The date is a bit of a stiff. The woman is intrigued by the pole, and she has a fantasy where she goes up on stage, dances around the pole, and this
that happens all the time.
This is her empowerment. The empowerment of the female character is to dance on the pole and leave her stingy boyfriend behind. And I was pretty disgusted, Tommy. I remember just like expressing my disgust, because one thing that disgusted me was kind of looking around to the students in the class, and especially the female students, and seeing their sadness. How else can I explain it? Like they're already, awkward. It's very awkward, and it
sounds to me like, I don't know who this professor, and I use that term
workshop
lightly.
Leader. Yeah.
I don't know who this professor was, but it sounds like he was utilizing this class to carry out some strange things that he's got going on in his head. And I hope you were able to get the fuck away from a guy like that, because people like that, and I bet you it's kind of interesting. I bet you if you were to do a quick little Google search on a guy like that, whatever this is, 10, 20 years later,
15,
maybe he's been in trouble for these kind of behaviors, because that kind of shit doesn't fly anymore, thankfully.
Right.
I'd like to think that, as a society, as people, and as an industry, we evolve. I don't want to turn this into a political kind of a debate, but there's no question that, behaviors on film sets in years past were just unrealistic, unreasonable, uncalled for, put a lot of people in uncomfortable situations. And I'd like to think that the kind of behavior that your professor was demonstrating back then would not be fucking tolerated today. And I think that even you, Mike, if you could like kind of, in retrospect, I bet you today you'd be a lot more comfortable voicing your opinion and filing a complaint and saying, "Hey,
I did back then."
Oh, you did? Oh, well.
I did.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Continue.
Yeah, no, we I think the situation was, I'm not sure if the guy that was my assigned roommate for that week, either he drove his car with the two of us in it, or I drove my car with the two of us in it. So basically he was being featured in this thing, and I really wasn't. So I was kind of stuck, unless I wanted to abandon my friend, or unless he drove. The point is I was stuck there because of somebody else. But I did feel very disgusted, and I did go to the film office at the school, and I did complain, and they basically ignored it, And so this was 2006, and so I kind of got an impression of this place where kind of buyer beware, like they're not really going to stick up for things. And that school is a great place, but it's also a place that's had a lot of turnover with leadership. And so
Mm-hmm.
typically what happens is somebody's there as a leader for 2 or 3 years. And I'm talking about a film school. And after 2 or 3 or 4 years, some controversies or some scandals will erupt, and then that president gets replaced by another one who gets a fresh start, and then they have 2 or 3 or 4 scandals, and then they're replaced. So
Well, I think
that's
we can learn. I think what we can learn from that is, people watching this, we are advocates of studying and training and taking courses and going out there and bettering your craft. But do a little bit of homework on who you're doing your classes with. If you're going to sign up for a course with someone, if you're going to, get involved with someone, again, Mike, I'm not trying to sound like that was ancient history. It was only 2006, but times have changed so much between now and 2006. It's incredible. I'd like to think that that kind of behavior just wouldn't fly today. But if it does fly and you do see some shit like that, don't be afraid to do what Mike did. In fact, I implore you to do what Mike did. And you walk up to whoever is in charge of that unit there and you say, hey, this guy's fucked up. Here's why. This is what happened. And if you ask so and so and so and so, they'll back up the story. And I think, again, like Mike, kudos to you, and Stephen E is shouting you out too. We all appreciate that. It takes good people to stand up and stop bad people, as simple as that sounds. Otherwise, the bullshit just keeps going. But I'd like to think if you act like Mike if you act now like Mike acted back in 2006, that motherfucker would be asked to leave pretty quickly after hearing about that whole striptease lighting test shenanigans.
horrible.
Which is a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah.
So we hate to hear that, Mike. We appreciate you standing up for what's good. And I like to hope that that guy's no longer anywhere near students or people trying to learn about film.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't looked his name up, and
Well,
I
why don't
haven't.
we wind it down, Mike? Why don't you tell us one
Sure.
more shit
Oh,
story?
jeez, but I got all these notes, Tommy. Shit, I
Oh
got all
God,
these stories.
how many disasters have you been a part of?
I guess, like I said, a lot of them were just kind of. Here's one, man. I guess I'll get a little personal, buddy, because you know the people involved, but I'm not going to name names.
Well,
I
and
want
real
to.
quick, I just want to say Jimmy
Sure.
Caputo made a very
Hey,
funny
Jimmy.
joke here. Spare Square. That was I believe Elaine was trapped in the bathroom without toilet paper, and she was just asking for, can't you spare a square? Just one square of toilet
Yeah.
paper. We love that. We love Seinfeld over here. So shout out to Jimmy for bringing that one to our attention. I think
Somebody
that was
complimented
that was
my
in reference
haircut.
to your bug spray. Yeah, let's take a quick peek. This would be a good time to see if anybody said something that we missed. Gianni Agavoni likes the haircut. Haircut
Thanks,
looks
Johnny.
stellar. Tommy back in black and looking good. But I gotta say, Johnny, it does feel good to have my normal dark hair back in action. Although, hey, as actors, part of the fun is to switch it up every now and then. My brother-in-law actually looked at me yesterday at the 4th of July and he's like, hey man, just want you to know it's like really good to see that dark hair again. And I'm busting his balls. I'm like, hey, you didn't like my blonde hair? You don't like the blonde hair? He's just like, it was a little weird. And I was like, I could see
Yeah.
that. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching along. Kim, thank you for hanging out with us. We're going to tell a couple more stories before we call it a go home on this episode. But we do appreciate everybody kind of chiming in, listening to our shenanigans, hearing about
Thanks, Johnny.
our bullshit. And yes, Johnny says, I'm proud of you for reporting it. Guys, we'll say this one more time. I can't reiterate it enough. If you see something, say something, because, that's what it takes sometimes to uncover some shit that's been going on and will continue to go on unless you say something.
Stephen E
So
had
Mike,
a few comments too.
yeah, let's see. So that needed to come to the surface. Look what 10 years in our industry are now, people coming forward. It really is a great thing, man. Evolution's a wonderful thing. And, as a group of people, as a society, we just hope that we keep evolving and getting better at clearing out all the bullshit. And we have a quick update here from Stephen E. He is Mike, I've uploaded my short film to Film Freeway. We'll submit to your festival soon. Very
Right.
cool. We love seeing
Avalonia Festival.
at the Avalonia Festival. All right, Mike, give us one more disaster story.
All right, buddy. We'll have to save the rest for part 2 whenever we
I
do
think
that.
it's funny you mentioned this, Mike. This is actually like a fun topic for me, and I want you to know, like, trust me, guys, I've had a lot more fucking worse days. As if I really think about it, this was just the worst day. But this is kind of fun, Mike. I think I could see us revisiting this every couple months. Like, worst day is part 2. Worst day is part 3. Because I think, like, and I mean this, man. Like, I think everybody can learn from someone's horrible situation, and because sometimes we will put ourselves in bad situations, and sometimes bad situations just fall on our fucking lap.
Right.
And either way, they test you as an individual, and we can all learn a little something from it. So life can fucking really hit you in the mouth sometimes, and how are you going to react,
There's a theme in the first 2 stories that I told where I felt kind of helpless because I didn't drive myself to the set. And Tommy, you've hung out with me enough to know, do you ever see me being really comfortable if I'm not driving my own car? Like I'll drive with you, but you'll see me get kind of anxious.
You're a guy who, if you don't know Mike personally, guys, I'm going to give you a little backstory. Mike is a guy who comes with a lot of accoutrements. He needs a lot of things to survive as a Mike. And what I mean by that is he's got his belongings. He's going to have his backpack. He's going to have not one, but a couple of laptop computers. He's going to have a special seat that he can bring into a coffee shop to make his stay even a little more comfortable while he stays. He's going to have a little rack that he can set up to make like a dual. He's got a fucking setup, guys. He's got a mobile office. He brings water with him. He brings snacks with him. You never know what's going to be in Mike's car. So he's the kind of guy who, and listen, that's being prepared. That's you ready for any encounter, Mike. I can't knock that. But with that means Mike likes to have his car. And I think it goes beyond just your belongings, Mike. You're like me too, where like you like to be in control of your own destiny.
Yes.
And I'm the same way, man. Like I would rather like take my car and literally pay one of my friends to fucking drive.
Right.
Just to know that like I can call that, hey, no, we're not going there. Yeah, we're gonna do this. It's a helpless fucking feeling when you're what I call a go with buddy. So I get it, Mike. So back to your story. Your theme was you didn't have your car.
In the first 2 stories, like there was car entanglements, which prevented me from leaving when I felt like I should have left. You know what I mean? So the third story, I'm going to be a little bit vague on this, just because I don't want to, bring up any bad feelings with our friends or anything. But I was once assigned to be Tommy, cut me off if I'm giving too much information away on this one.
All right.
But I was assigned to be, for the first time in my career, first AD, which is the heat spot. Like that's the spot which I have a lot of. Yeah,
I know this story. I'm getting excited. You can tell.
Well, I'm not going to name names out of respect to the living.
Sure.
But the first AD spot is the first assistant director.
You want to explain what the first AD does?
Go ahead. Yeah, take that.
Yeah, the first AD is basically like, the drill sergeant on the movie set. It's their job to not only come up with the schedule and take a look at the script and be like, okay, this is the best way to methodically shoot it. We're going to shoot this part first because we're already going to be in the kitchen. Then we're going to shoot this because we're moving out to the front port. It's like they're the field general that has to figure everything out in pre-production. And on top of that, when you're in production, they have to make sure that battle plan is going accordingly, and that, all those little estimates that they have to make estimates in their fucking head as to how long everything is going to take. So it's like, oh wait, we were supposed to be out of this an hour ago, and wait, I only have an hour allotted for this shot and 2 hours for this. So they're fucking maniacs, and I mean that in a good way. Like if you have a great AD, they can really be sort of like a compass for you to guide your ship through the movie making day. I'm not saying Mike's not a good AD, but Mike, to my knowledge, brother, you'd never AD'd before, right?
I never AD'd.
Got thrown into this position.
I got thrown into this position. I got invited to do this job, a non-paying job, of course. I ended up drafting 2 friends of mine, eager young men who wanted to be involved in the film world that I had worked with on some paying short film types of stuff. And these 2 guys, good guys, they wanted to be involved with anything. So they hopped in my car and I drove the three of us down to another state. I guess I won't name the state either. But and I remember spending like about $200 on snacks and food because I just
That's a lot of
somehow
fucking snacks and food, Mike.
yeah, somehow I got, and this was for like the whole set. And somehow I got the impression that there wasn't going to be like snacks or drinks provided. And I was taking this first AD thing pretty seriously. Like, okay, well, I should provide it. And hopefully somebody will compensate me back, which never happened. But I was thinking, I don't want to run a set where I'm not nourishing people. Like, you know what I mean? And I took it very seriously. I took ownership of this thing. And the person who brought me into it, I was trying to impress him, you know, because I was looking to advance my own career. And I think I had some projects at the time, Chris and the Coffee Girl, and probably Wrestling with Sanity, that I was trying to get made. You know what I mean? So I was always looking to make a good impression on people. So long story short, the next day comes, we drive down, and once again, I'm the first AD. I'm not the creative guy in this. And I think here's some of the problems, Tommy. I'm at this point, even if I'm shooting something with no budget, low budget, $1,000 budget, I'm used to being the guy who's the director slash producer slash writer. Now I'm in a situation where I am the first AD for a music video where I think the script is garbage. Like the script was for a rap song. The rap song had a very positive message about things, right? I like the song. But when I got the script for the video that we're going to film, it's like people are getting killed and it's just a vengeance story. And I'm like, this song is really pretty good, but this script for the video makes no sense.
So already you're having conflicts between the creative Mike and the direct, you know, the creative Mike who doesn't make any sense of the story, and the crew person who, let's be honest, it's kind of just their job to show up and do whatever the script calls for if they want to take the job. That's the thing, you know, like I always say that too. Like, hey, listen, anyone who's watching this, if you're not down with the creative, don't take the fucking job, period.
Yeah.
You know
and
what I mean?
Yeah, this situation, I had already agreed to do it before I was sent the script. And once again, I'm not getting paid for this, and neither are the two guys I'm bringing into it. So we get to this location, and here's another problem, Tommy. The director who had written the script for the video and I had never met before, you know, and so this is all getting thrown together. We were not friends. We were not associates. We didn't know each other at all. So we're kind of put into this situation, and he's probably 10, 15 years younger than me. And we're put into a situation where we're introduced pretty quickly. And I was pretty respectful of this guy. You know, he was respectful of me, at least initially. And then we start getting into, like you said, the plan for the day. And basically he wanted to shoot in the basement of the venue we were at. I said, okay. So I went down the stairs to the basement, and I'm like, oh, wow, there's a lot of like dampness and water in this basement. And there's some loose wires, you know, like electrical wires coming from the ceiling, and even from the floor, there seems to be some.
Yeah, quick update if you're listening. Another job that the AD is responsible for is the safety of the crew, you know. So like when you're an AD on a movie, the director is actually not responsible for the safety and welfare of the crew. It's actually the first AD, and there's a reason for that. The first AD is in charge of the safety because they are not the creative director. They don't want to give that power to the creative director because the creative director's gonna be like, I must get this shot. I don't care whose life we're risking. Obviously, I'm being dramatic when I say that.
Right.
But it's actually the job of the AD because they're supposed to be a person who can actually take themselves out of the creative bullshit and say, hang on, yeah, that'd be cool, but someone's gonna get hurt. We're not fucking doing that. So that's why Mike is going in the basement. That's why Mike's looking at the dampness. He's not working for the fucking natural environment organization. He's just there to try and look at the welfare and health of the crew, make sure nobody gets electrocuted, make sure nobody's breathing in shit air.
And there you go. So what I see in the basement is loose electrical wires, not very good natural lighting or any type of, you know, not a whole lot of light for people to see stuff.
Work light.
And the water, like the damp, like literal water, like puddles in various spots of this basement. Basically, I'm thinking, this does not look like a good idea to shoot down here, because the electric equipment that we're bringing down, what if somebody miswalks and steps into a puddle and they're holding something with a voltage, a battery or something, or a camera? Like, what if a camera falls into this water? And horrible. So I'm just thinking this is not a good shoot. So I'm looking at and basically what the scene was an Inquisition scene. Somebody's tied up, their hands behind their back, and they're getting intimidated by another character. And I'm thinking, okay, well, that could kind of be filmed anywhere. Like, granted, it might be creepier and nastier in the basement because it's creepy and nasty and unsafe. But here's another idea. There's this entire kitchen upstairs that has no food equipment or anything. It's just basically used as a closet, and there's a bunch of empty boxes. I said, if we take 20 minutes to take these empty boxes out of this room, this would be kind of a cool Inquisition room, because it's like a very blank room, like just four walls. You know what I mean? Now, the director and I never came to a conclusion, as far as I could tell. Like, I never gave and he never gave. We never said, okay, I agree with you. You're right. We just kind of, it was still an ongoing conversation, when suddenly there was a phone call for me to go pick some actor up at the train station. Now, suddenly I have to leave the fucking set to go pick up some guy from New York who's got to take a train in to this thing. So I do. I go pick up.
If you're listening at home, it's like, that's not what your first AD does. Your first AD is not the goddamn transpo coordinator. They're not going to ever get in a car and pick someone up. But go ahead, Mike.
Right. So I go, it starts to rain, of course. I'm in the town, and I didn't really know this town. I didn't know the state. I guess there was GPS at the time. So I go and pick up the actor. He's a nice guy. Bring him back. When I get back, and remember, I also brought two guys with me. I brought my own two kind of Mike Messier interns with me. I get back, and they're starting to set up the scene in the basement. So the director punk decides to basically do what he wants. So I'm like, okay, whatever I said about safety, the water, the electrical cords, didn't fucking matter to this guy. He just wants to get his shot. So I kind of know where I stand. This asshole wants to do his fucking thing, and he's going to do it. I see one of my guys, and when I say my guys, because these are guys I literally brought with me from Rhode Island to be on this fucking thing. I see one of my guys sweeping up the steps that go downstairs, and it looked like fucking, I don't know what asbestos looks like, but if you could like have a cartoon where there's like a visual of asbestos as this.
Yeah, it was like blinking and glowing.
Right. As this 24-year-old kid, is sweeping the fucking steps. I'm like, this is horrible. You know what I mean? So anyway, we get through this. We actually go through that fucking thing. And as you can see, even talking about it now, 6-7 years later, I still get angry about it, because the script was not good. I think it actually hurt the song, and we're not following safety procedures. And I'm kind of put in the asshole spot. I'm the bad cop because of all the inadequate. Nobody's getting paid. I'm certainly not. I'm losing money on this thing. But it's just, well, maybe some people were getting paid and I wasn't. I don't know. But just the disregard for my own talents. And really, Tommy, what I really started thinking is, why the fuck am I the first AD for this guy when I'm a better director than he is? Why isn't somebody giving me a chance to write the goddamn music video script? I can direct better than this piece of shit. So that's how I felt.
Yeah. See, like, let's pause right there, because there's a lot of emotions in that story. I could see why you'd be upset, and I could see why, obviously when you show up on a movie set, you expect certain things, and some of those simple basic needs, right? Just like anything else, just like the simple basic needs of life. You want food, you want water, you want shelter, right? Those are 3 fucking basic needs of life that we all need as people. Same thing on a movie set. You gotta have water to fucking give your crew, you gotta have food, and you gotta have a suitable place for them to shoot. That's what I mean by a roof over their head. Although sometimes you're going to shoot outside, but even then you need a home, and that outside needs to be very much methodically chosen and set up for production, because you're going to camp. It's like summer camp, like you got to have certain things. So I guess my question to you, Mike, and I know you were kind of trying to build a rapport with a certain group of filmmakers in order to get your own projects off the ground, which that's another kind of whole, we could probably do a whole episode on that. And I think that just gave me a great idea for another episode down the road. But, we could talk about the things that we've done as filmmakers for free in order to potentially give ourselves some kind of a fucking springboard into a future opportunity, a player to be named later, to use a baseball term in a trade. So we all have done that before. And I don't think there's a person on the planet that can realistically say that they're involved in movies, successful or not. We've all worked for free and done some bullshit.
You call it paying your dues if you want, or
yeah, you
trying
call
to
it what you want.
trying to get karma points or something.
Karma, building relationships. There's a million ways.
Networking opportunity.
We can put lipstick on this pig all day long. The bottom line is you're working for free and it fucking sucks.
Yeah.
But when you're working for free, I think the lesson that you learn, Mike, and I'm certainly not trying to fucking, be a teacher, but this is all about taking from what we can learn from these awful fucking experiences.
Yeah.
I think obviously a lot of this animosity that you had was probably because you're a creative guy and you probably don't belong in that AD position ever on any movie.
Horrible position for me.
Like, it's just not. You need to understand that, like, in the movie business, there's a lot of different places to go, and choosing which position to play, so to speak, it's very important, because I love making films, but if I had to work, say, like in the sound department, like as an on-field sound engineer, like, no offense to any sound engineers, that would drive me insane. I have no fucking concept of what frequency does what. I have no idea how to fucking mix. I have no idea how to, solo off one actor's mic and not the other. Like, those decisions throughout the day would drive me insane. But I'm sure the sound person might look at the art person and say, "Oh, I never want to fucking do that job. Fuck that." There's so many different jobs. You got to really, I guess the moral of the story is finding like what you like to do and recognizing it.
Yeah, this was not it.
And you were still new in the game, Mike. I'd like to think, that was probably almost 10 years ago. I'd like to think that, now you'd probably show up in pre-production, so to speak, which it doesn't sound like
there wasn't any pre-production.
But I guess I'm kind of joking when I say pre-production. Sure. I mean, like, when you had your phone call to do this, like when they asked you to help out, you'd probably, if you were to do that, run through that again, you'd probably have a series of a battery of questions, if you will, that you could come with now. Like, hey, who's directing? Can I jump on the phone with them? What's where are we shooting? Is it a safe location? Is there a meal involved? I guess that's what we can learn from Mike's final story of disaster. Just, especially if you're doing it for free, ask a lot of fucking questions and make sure that you're being paired up with creepy people like Mike encountered in his first disaster stories. And make sure also that you can get along with the person, the director. I mean, if you don't get along with the director and you guys are butting heads and you're trying to be his assistant, his right-hand person, that ain't going to work out. So,
it was a bad setup.
And, one conversation on the phone with that kid, you probably would have been like, yeah, this isn't for me. I get a weird vibe.
What I would say, Tommy, about that whole deal was the first AD, one thing that was good from that is I already had it, but I learned even more respect for that first AD position, because that is a tough job. And there's one guy that I saw do that job well on the set of Hachiko, a Richard Gere, Jason Alexander movie from Woonsocket, Rhode Island. He was a really great first AD, which is something you don't really think about. It's kind of like one of those things where if you're on a film set and you're observing the first AD, it's because you're really kind of intrigued by the filmmaking process. But the first AD role is the bad guy. And I just learned, Tommy, that I'll be the bad guy if I have to be. But if I'm being the bad guy to people because I'm trying to make some music video happen that I don't believe in the script because it's horrible, I don't feel good about myself. I don't feel good about anything.
I don't want to cut you off there, but I'm going to defend the profession of first ADing as a whole. I don't think the first AD is the bad guy. I have to disagree with that. No, I don't think so. I think that the first AD, and I've served in battle, so to speak, with first ADs that I think they're my fucking hero. They're the guys that I want to be in the foxhole with. They're the guys that are going to get me to see the light of day.
No, I'm saying they have to serve the bad guy role to the cast.
No,
and the crew.
hear me out. I disagree with that too, because if the production is organized and the production is going smooth, they don't
Right.
have to be a bad guy,
Right.
because they have all their shit there. They're the good guy. They're the guys saying, "Hey guys, we're gonna get this one in 2 takes, and then we're gonna go to lunch." All right, awesome. So it's like, I just don't want to like enshroud ADing as this bad guy role, because again, I have worked with ADs that are like tough, and they're gonna throw their weight around, and they're gonna make you feel kind of not so great about yourself, and that's fucked up. And unfortunately, that's a stigma that some ADs have. But I have worked with some very kind-hearted first ADs that can, I guess you could say, be the bad guy, meaning tell the news that the crew might not always want to hear. That's what it comes down to.
I meant to say bad cop, by the way, not bad.
Yeah, no,
bad
I
cop.
understand. I know you weren't trying to throw a cheap shot at ADs, and you understand.
No, of course not. No, I'm saying I respect the position.
Yeah, it's tough, but I will say that, and that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day. But the AD is a tough spot. Mike, it sounds like you had a really, I guess that was my point. Like, I feel like you probably would have been able to do your job better if the production had facilitated you with all of the elements that you needed to do the job. You were producing a little bit, you were directing a little bit, you were trying to come up with all these elements. So that's a tough spot. But there's a first for everything, and I will segue into, as we wind this show down, next week, I'm very excited about the topic. We're coming up on the 10-year anniversary of the first time I ever made a movie, and that's Self-Storage.
Yes.
So next Tuesday, looks like it's going to be, actually, I'm sorry, we're going to be coming at you next Wednesday next week.
Okay.
I've got something going on Tuesday, but next Wednesday, we'll be talking all about Self-Storage, which is really the movie that kind of got it all started for me. That was my first feature film. I wrote and directed it. I also made the unfortunate attempt at starring in it as well, alongside Eric Roberts and Jonathan Silverman. We're going to dive deep into that one, talk a little bit about that. So prepare your self-storage questions. If you have any questions you want to ask me about the movie, I am all ears, and we're going to get into it next week. I'm not sure what time Wednesday. Mikey's got to look at his schedule. I'm going to look at my schedule. We're going to map it out. But I do like, I like doing these day shows, but it all just depends on what we got going on that particular day. Sometimes Mike's traveling to promote his festivals. Sometimes he posts it up. For the most part, next week, the nice thing is, as of right now, I don't have any work obligations for like the first 2 weeks in July. So I'm going to be porch bound quite a bit. So we'll let you know as soon as we find out, and we'll be talking all about self-storage. In the meantime, thank you very much for taking part in some of our misery, some of our really challenging days in the world of making movies. Because like I said, if you can make a living in this business, it's one of the greatest ways to do it. And you're going to have a lot of high points, a lot of great moments, a lot of great memories. But if you do this long enough, it's inevitable. The rug's going to get pulled on you a few times.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what? That's all part of the fucking journey that we're on. So shout out to everybody who's watching along. Stephen E., thank you very much. Chris Whitcomb just chimed in. My boy Chris.
That's
and
nice.
Is
that a friend of yours? And
Chris is a terrific actor.
Cool.
We just got off the set of Long Night together, and this was actually like the third or fourth movie that we've acted in the last like few months. It's been a really fun run. So shout out to Chris. Thanks for watching along, brother.
I'd like to thank Stephen E. for buying my book. You mentioned that earlier, so thanks, Stephen E. I appreciate that.
We love the community we're building here on And Action. Thank you to all. Have a great week. We hope you had an awesome 4th of July weekend. Enjoy the beginning of the summer. It's a great time of year. We'll see you next week when we talk about self-storage. Adios, everybody.